Hello. Okay, what is the difference between the Quran and Islam? What is the difference between the Old Testament written in English, that first part, real short, that says all you have to do is understand this, and about the identity the sciences share, and decipher there, which is interscience and demonstration. Well, we'll get to this. Relationship to the other. As a conversation started about criminal insidiousness nature in relationship to its caused by the identity of space, how it will and does only share. Well, this is not. This is about the Quran and the Old Testament are partly about criminally re-engineered sciences, internation, and so the value of states and area sciences with that since before them. In other words, then so human fact treatment nature, justification nature rolls with it. And so with and as lie progression cover-up natures forced by the space nature. And this was with a breaching method that knew we were a fact treatment nature. So they cultivated areas and nations self-defended as, like they used the term shock and awe, which they were tricked to use, because in how we were recorded for shared policed in relationship to economic positions, only that realized, directed and by abridged fact treatment nature, agencies and roles, with and as originally and progressed criminally foreign influence. In other words, it's not complicated. In other words, it's just they're not letting free speech and spreading other databases, hiding their recorded roles here. And not just with the physical reasons they agreed to be here in relationship to weapons and bombs and in relationship to hospitals' needs, juxtaposed with means to criminal uses of their equipment and roles with policing and stuff tied to all that, with investigation stuff, tied to serious things like bombs and chemical weapons, and in context with and as a recorded crime method, keeping each modern nation only experts in relationship to reactions of hurt, and while maintaining indifference to a range of it that what was is let right through the relationship we have to international police here as fake sides, because is in areas maintained they were to the justification of themselves here and there as a bridge factory of nature, and as styles that need to hide lies, delusions, premises, and as sequence shifting styles. Also recorded, not letting crimes reported and just writing other. Federal crime stacking that way with motivations. And so then this goes into the regular police, hold the police departments juxtaposed with and as criminal internation groups together originally and still. This is how they originally motivated people to roles with six things like slavery and witch trials and the slavery of our founders, which we're going to have understood, because it also demonstrates recorded forced glorification of treatments of them that they would be upset about, because they didn't have free speech yet, because they not only the physical laws were against them, there were laws against them socially, what they could say. It was an engineering that was building them as lie progression cover-up natures, as tools, not realizing. Even the kings that were over here had interest. One right here, this was what maintained means to keep even kings leveraged against. In other words, unfree, fact treatment natures, and with no, in other words, with This was as fluent through the only sides that Let realized from little minority base. But per a method against each age of fact treatment nature, maintaining naive, hurt conviction natures, haters, with and has every science. And they're all shared, ulterior than realized means, dishonestly, pretending they believe that. As only Let realize science voices, dishonestly, tied to database solution stacking, intercampuses, inter first responders and stuff like that. Already victim predator roles, indifferent to investigations, stuff like that. This is within us in nature. When you're in nature like that, forced with the international police, your nature forced. You can't. You have to rely on others to think for you. And what they're getting them to do that on the records and off the record, stacking our police to federal crime rules with evidences every day and through time, because they already did it. In other words, and lie progressions against investigations and investigators, but with them too, because this is how they were all Let realized. Each age of fact treatment nature is realized as a correlation nature and is attacked as such. That's why they're consciously pretending, there's doctors consciously pretending that they believe that the genetic defects and stuff like that, mental illnesses, are to what it is causing gun rates to be higher in certain areas and stuff like that. This is the same crime method distinctly, but the same one, and members, a minority of them, but a lot of them, compared to everyone, a lot. I mean, a lot of people, but not a lot compared to everyone. But they're connected intercity with criminal justice, inter-campus, with inter-policing of campuses, with inter-healthcare, and then with inter-branch roles with sensibilities, and with a crime method maintaining sensibilities to collusion, plotting to pretend they did crimes certain ways, just for that too, for a crime, because they need to pretend other people need multi-front lies told while they're not letting people report truths, and then just writing because they can't say that they didn't let people report truths and they didn't follow mandated law. And then they make rape threats to the courts, and they're recorded involved with investigators that are involved with their databases, and with them database solution stacking through time in conjunction with spreading rumors and stuff like that with the intercampus doctors and police and intermilitary families. Why did I mention all that? Because that is recorded used to facilitate a number of names and liars at once, as like a shield to hide behind, but they can't put anything in writing because they've been doing that since people were kids. Now as adults, recorded with and as proven and with and as further recorded child predators, and ones they're hiding the names of too, with doctors too recorded with roles with him and with their patients, and with town offices too, with the same patient and mother of a child predator involved, with the other ones proven too, and further recorded. They're also still with WFSB's police are recorded and confessed, tied to people making fake child predator maps who have child predator roles through time, with and as a Dillon family recorded and confessed many times, many years through time, demonstrated, involved with crimes with kids and with drugs, with interbranch police and judges and their family members manipulating my neighbors' confessions and roles with recorded database crime roles through time, and roles simultaneously with courts illusion, database illusion stacking, and roles with mistreatments of kids and of whole, each age of correlation nature, each age of fact treatment nature, dishonestly, out of sequence, and relying upon those naive convictions with the sciences maintained areas in online interests, online crime interests, maintained needed to pretend illusions and to pretend not to be hate, and different, and even needing to believe to be as haters, or whatever, because they just need to rely on each branch's distinct roles, indifferent to people everyone lied again about, not freedom of speech. They just pretend they don't know because that's how they were raised. Like the original early states and colonies, like with Jim Crow laws, with crime rolls, consciously making Barack Obama treat the Civil War as if it and slavery were the same thing, because not one person was free. Our founders will go so mad because their fact treatment nature slavery was not easy, not told. In the worst forms of it, people stacking, that's not our means. These aren't free markets. And a voice that's saying such cannot defend themselves in their country. But that's defended. That's the truth of that is not realized consciously through rackets where the whole agenda is to keep that not realized. It's not realized because it's not their voice. They keep prejudice to keep sensibilities, not letting the organized crime method voiced, the acts of it. The millions of voices want to say, hey, these are not our means, poverty. But the news won't let that understood. They pick out one or two people who say, oh, I don't like to be talked about, I don't like to be talked down. Most of the people in poverty and stuff, which is recorded worse than poverty. This was just set up by a breaching organized crime method. So, the difference between the Quran, this is what the Quran is noting too. We're telling, and with the beginning of the Quran, we're supposed to be able to demonstrate that non-believers are valued too. And if you are a Muslim, all you have to do is understand that this book is about the identity of space. Allah is about the nature of that as a value. It's about the sequence nature. See, that sequence nature is not being appreciated by scholarship, making with convictions that are appreciating the nature of organized crime being described by the beginning of the Quran with the liars. That's what they're describing. A nature of organized crime that also forced the nation, the land and the positions and the bodies and the fact treatment nature of Saudi Arabia also to force shared markets positions, also force shared police, and also that force hit. So that now you can't talk right. So now they're forcing King to be a quality of fact treatment nature distinctly from the Quran is asking us to be. But that's not being appreciated. That's not being be understood by and through how areas maintained sciences to motivations with this. And within that, as everyone manifests, within that styles, thinking with sense convictions, and or not at all, and because all they see talking is what's dishonest and needing to say the same lies and delusions, only let realized. Per liars, lie, progression, cover-up styles needing to hide lies, delusions, premises, criminal intonation, persuasion, sequence shifting roles, and styles, and means to get away with it through time. Database crime roles, means to get away with it through time, means to exploit that through time, means to affect it through time. Polarity cultivation methods, not letting people have anything in writing through time and it's writing other, pretending other, never letting. So that's why we need a place to have, like Facebook is being recorded, used. It was too, was and is recorded with crime rolls, with people with the name Lanza and with doctors and with places tied to Adabalanza, even if made up. That was reported. Too, with the Institute of Living, they have a whole bunch of doctors recorded and confessed, involved with recorded and confessed for the demonstrable witness fabrication rules, drug crime rules, with police, with regular doctors who are police investigators too, and with overt gangs, drugs, and stuff like that, interceding through time, tied to their roles with campuses, using that for motivations where they sell to a lot of kids at once, and they use that with sequences where they're pretending that people are part of that never were, and they're directing exceptions that are people only confessing roles with lie progressions that people are trying to figure out because they don't know the people's names, and they're acting like other, and they're acting like other happened in relationship to actually database illusion stacking. And their actual confessions and recorded roles, recorded proofs of roles with actual other reality, and crime roles with and through the parents through time, being directed with how investigators and investigations, and everyone as Oz, not understanding, trying to understand, but already as raised as victim predators. Each age of fact treatment nature hurt by this. That's why we had the proven and the further also recorded that they hid that criminally with wire crimes, evidence crime rules before that, and worse from that. They hid worse from the parents, and how they're trying to get away with it too now is by cultivating them to roles and to further roles with it, because there are further child predators confessed and recorded with on and off campus relationships in Weathersfield, and intercity tied, interbranch tied too, and intermilitary. There's Justin Kavinskas and his wife. I never tried to contact them in my life. They're recorded and confessed, involved with database crime rules, drug crime rules, with interbranch, intermilitary, and medical families, database crime rules with others confessed and recorded, also with the businesses before a body dumping spot of a serial killer, and with the person of that serial killer, and with as ones recorded and confessed with crimes with the court police from that court, and associated with another court, and with evidence crimes in those courts, and tied to interstate, tied to one proven in the Ninth Circuit from right before the Trade Center attack, and those actors recorded tied interstate with allusions with the investigations, and with investigators and doctors, drugs clicks that were federal criminals in that case, that were also therefore had people forging names, pretending fake conversations about those cases, about the Trade Center attack, about the way it really went down, or was really tied to it. This is how they are also with Rush and with other families, victim predators here and there. And because we don't have one modern nation that can defend themselves and us at the same time, predatory litigation measures. They were also, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, was federal criminal, with other defendants in that case that were also, had a daughter in my grave. I'm not just talking about that, I'm talking about a whole bunch of connections to New York spot leading up to it, and then right in that spot the night before and stuff like that, that had tied to that, and to witness fabrications, and Connecticut tied in court sequence shifts, and roles with intercampus crimes with girls through investigators with that, and through investigators with the kids and with DCF. And for the fact treatment racket with that, which is maintained internation, as means to motivate them to such, fact treatment wise. So everyone, they're lifting criminal insidiousness nature. I'm not a lawyer, but they're recorded since the Trade Center in collusion with men and women who grew up with database crime rules and all kinds of rules breaking tied to it, and on and off campuses. Evidence crime rules with others. I don't know either. And that pretend other that I completely don't know. I only know that person because through my neighbor, and with as their roles explaining gradually what I figured out now on my own was but they confessed and recorded, which wasn't like reported because they're with database solution stacking roles tied to their roles with courts, with evidence crimes, cover-ups, and database solution stacking, preventing everyone free speech and just spreading other through time, and then directing people to pretend they don't understand them, preventing mandated law, preventing police rape threats from being, and court rape threats recorded online from being reported because they were tied to recorded sequence shifts in court confessions and crimes, juxtaposed with many police forms, private, foreign, and domestic, and interbranch, all quickly, all predators. So this was also recorded tied to like a ropes program and programs they have with the kids, because they have mental health really used as a live progression cover-up tool as nations thinking that their right to be justified as legalized criminal insidiousness natures and capable of speaking for what's behind bombs, when the obligation to understand is the obligation to free speech, not pretend the right to hide roles with internation police here is with integrity, and what it was is patriotism nature. Just because someone goes and sacrifices themselves to rely on what other people think for them, that doesn't mean them to come back here and to pretend it has the right to be a homeland evidence fabrication nature child predator. That's who we have, child predators. We have Wethersfield Police, Wethersfield Media, Rocky Hill Media, Rocky Hill Police Forum, domestic, private, associated, recorded with medical corruption with Sandy Hook, with the police, with the state judicial branch offices, people, with houses next to it, people who sold that land, reportedly, had evidence crime rules with body dumping spots from confessions from strangers. And they say, oh, here's what people say and stuff like that. But it's all connected in the pattern. So they don't let you talk about the pattern because they're stacking databases. Same ones recorded with crime rules against Hartford, Connecticut. So they don't let you tell what's exploiting Hartford, Connecticut, pretend it's criminal justice, pretend it's military, pretend it's just healthcare. It's nothing. It's systemic witness fabrications. Pretends undercover with the gangs. It's not that. The drugs and the money weren't doing the gangs. That's after everyone already is a victim predator, each age of fact, each treatment nature to what is intercampus, hospital campuses too, recorded, confessed. I've never been in that once, recorded, confessed there. We have systemic agencies using these places to cover up their life progressions, not just because here and there. We have modern nations, so they're going to torture their agents here and there Because what was is exploiting that, was is maintaining it, self-maintained, cultivated. And it's maintaining that means to do that, not even let countered. And this was is they're not letting anybody but criminal insidiousness, nature, indifference, and roles realize with modern languages, with treatments of investigators, with healthcare, especially with the database, because they're using that, especially how they're tied to courts and to prisons, recorded inclusion with their prisoners before they were there. And then they torture them, recorded torture in their fact treatment nature with methods, recorded torture in them. To keep equality of native fact treatment, lie, progression, cover up, blame on other things. They need a sequence nature that can share. This only let really share haters, or, the plotters against people, against strangers. And then when you say that, they direct people like on Facebook or stuff like that, recorded tied to the investigators that grew up as child victim predators of the rest of Detective Dillon and others, recorded and confessed, further involved still with progressed further child crimes in my area, and with names rackets where they're not giving the names of the predators, like a girl on Pondside, recorded and confessed, involved criminally with the abuses of little kids. She's a young woman herself. I don't even know if she's even 18 yet. I don't know her name. I never met her. She non-verbally, maybe not my neighbor confessed to it for her. And then she non-verbally signaled that it was true. And after his other confessions, and with my new neighbors and old neighbors who confessed to crime roles with police that were and with people with Trinity College and with others, and with the deans recorded and confessed involved with them, with crimes, with the databases, spreading illusions, telling lies, and tied to what they did in the past, recorded, confessed with database crime. They were supposed to take. They didn't follow the rules. When I was growing up, they were putting database illusions and sequence shifting, because investigators just tell the people of the campuses to do that. There was 2 speech teachers I had that were recorded and confessed, involved with men and women involved with sexual sicknesses with the kids as doctors of psychology, involved with investigators, involved with database rackets with kids, with judges, with their family members, areas motivated to roles within as these natures. Then they have to hide their own nature from actually recorded. So they need to have motivations to pretend passions and to pretend convictions against others in a group, en masse, with a lot of people. But in the background, and with sequence shifts and stuff like that, I've been never letting anything on paper since I was a kid. This isn't just against me, this is against everybody. So there's a crime method not being demonstrated, tied to the treatments of the Russian issues, with the Russian spy den treatments, recorded being used as a breaching method, using indifference to it, and all that it's tied to with other nations like Ukraine, also victim predator roles with trade center crimes tied to that. Not just into rackets with the investigations and investigators, with that, with the concept of nuclear weapon, with the concept of environmental anthrax, all that crazy stuff, with their roles with the chemicals too, with the lie progression cover-ups, all the federal crimes, using the science people connected to the investigators with Wethersfield branch, interbranch corruption, massive Wethersfield police, foreign police corruption in Wethersfield through time. So they had lie progressions set up by insulating people to groups and then putting people in the groups that they talk about behind their backs, that what's directed by interbranch corruption. Very sickly. So we have whole crime methods with each age of effect to be nature not let realize, using using methods motivating them by having them stacked to verbal federal crimes. So then they have to cover live aggressions, and then when they keep investigations going back and forth with what was his recorded manifest, with nation shared police here as criminally legalized, but to agree to keep our Constitution abridged, free speech just faked in other written databases, and that outlet reported. This was how it was. Is originally motivated everyone to roles, blaming out others and exploiting it, was by having everyone stack verbal federal crimes. This comes down to nature medical corruption originally progressed, where they have KKK recorded effectively used by black and white doctors and police and military police, recorded with forging names and with database crime roll with campuses, with areas police, and with everywhere as a database, and then recorded, pretending they have, pretending their patriotism natures, even if they went and served or whatever. I don't know. I know one of them is a Marine guy, sick with the kids, with another guy who's a regular, legitimate Marine. The other guy says he was reportedly dishonorably discharged from the Marines, but he was also recorded and confessed child predator nature of one with victims advocates and with people with a court recorded and confessed involved through time. Database solution stacking, witness fabrications roles, child abuse roles, database solution stacking roles through kids they raised as adult predators needed to cover life progressions from the roles recorded with that when they were kids with drug dealing, and not to me, but this was confessed by their friends and relatives, and in other words, and tied to the further recorded and further recorded, having been hid criminally by arresting me for harassment with wire crime sequence shifts and evidence fabrications before that and since and with that, and hiding the rest of the recorded and confessed child predators.